Poppy Playtime's latest VHS might just be my favourite one yet. This one wraps up the ARG and it adds a ton of context to Chapter 5. It proves some of my theories correct, disproves others, and gives us some major new confirmations of things that we've been debating over for a long time. This latest VHS, titled Salvation, picks up from Jessica's point of view after she was separated from Preston in the last one. Jessica is terrified as she searches these halls, seeing the remains of what's left after the Hour of Joy. Speaking of remains, she comes across the corpse of a Bron toy. Now we know why the Bron leg was on the table in that image. This is most likely the same Bron that we know was Thomas Clark. You can see the damage to his neck matches the damage we saw from his VHS tape. This is a very interesting point. While this moment brings the VHS series full circle, it also shows that Thomas Clark wasn't spared the Hour of Joy like I theorized. Some people were spared though, and we'll come on to that shortly. If you look closely at Thomas, he is completely cut in half. That and the scratch marks on the floor around him are clues that his death was likely incredibly violent. Now we know from Bron's VHS that the other toys didn't like him. That is why they attacked him in the first place, leading to him being isolated for his own safety. Jessica claimed that the toys knew he was different, the implication being that the orphans were showing hostility to the experiments made from the staff. But Thomas Clark was the one that the prototype brought Theodore Gramble to after his accident. We find out later in this very VHS that the prototype did spare at least some people. So I find it surprising that he didn't spare Thomas, knowing that Thomas saved Theodore's life. This could be a hint that the prototype didn't have control over all the toys, something that would later escalate into the civil war that we learn about in Chapter 4. Either that, or the prototype brought Theodore to Thomas because of his skills alone, not his personality. Perhaps 1006 did not trust Thomas, only his abilities. As Jessica continues onwards, she is stopped in her tracks by two glowing white eyes. Now I think this is a huge theme of this series. Eyes have been something we have theorized over all the way back since Chapter 1. Characters in this series give us hints with their eyes. Mommy Longleg's eyes changed right before her personality shifted and she attacked us. Poppy's eyes are slowly turning more bloodshot, and Rowan Stoll saw Huggy's eyes moving, leading him to the conclusion that there were spy cameras in his eyes. You were so close, Rowan, so close. But before Chapter 4 released, I noticed that these glowing eyes were shown in those trailers too. In Catnap's VHS, we saw that once Grace's conditioning had taken root in Catnap's mind, his eyes began to glow. I definitely think the eyes are a very important clue to unraveling this mystery, and I might just have to delve deeper into that in a future theory. Now it's not exactly clear who these eyes belong to. They could be Catnap's. We know he liked to stalk us through Chapter 3, as this character now stalks Jessica. But whoever it was, they didn't attack her. Speaking of things that didn't attack her, right before this moment, Jessica heard a noise above her. As the camera quickly pans across, you can just about see this, which looks like a singular claw. Now it might just be a part of the mechanism for lifting those cages, but if you ask me, it does kind of look like a bat claw. Maybe a little hint that we will see Raby Baby this chapter. Probably not, but it would be cool. As Jessica slowly retreats from the eyes, she finds herself in this corridor. Now as she starts to get more and more scared, she swings her camera around to face every noise. I'm not so sure that she noticed though there were a bunch more eyes now watching her. She does find out pretty quickly as we see a bright flash of light followed by some of the most panic-inducing chase noise I have ever heard. Oh Mob, I hope this is in the game. Now it appears that there were several toys chasing Jessica here, and the noise they make leads me to believe that these are the wrong side Outimals. We heard a similar sounding noise when one of them was electrocuted in the teaser we got before Christmas. We now have one of them using a bright light and one of them using electricity. I wonder if these are all experiments the prototype has been conducting using the very limited resources available to him in the labs. Now, as Jessica runs away, if you look very closely, you can see she passes a sign saying aquarium prep rooms. Aquarium is incredibly suspicious. Is this a code word of sorts, or is there an actual aquarium in the labs? Many fans have already begun speculating that this is an area designed for Maggie Mako. As far as I can remember, the only aquatic animal Playtime Co. made a toy from. But while I think that is a great guess, I doubt they would call it an aquarium if that was the only thing in it. Still, an aquatic section of the game would be something completely fresh and new, so I'm incredibly hyped to see what it is. Prep rooms, on the other hand, hint to a much darker part of the labs. These are most likely the rooms where people were prepped for surgery. That life-altering, body-shifting surgery. This is the absolute closest we have come to seeing the scientific process, and once again, I cannot wait to see the horrors that lie down there. Now Jessica commits the greatest horror movie sin of all time. She slips on blood.
Wear shoes with better grips.
As she collects herself, she looks up to see that she is now at the feet of the prototype. Well, feet or blades, I guess. Now listen to how she behaves. She immediately begins apologizing to him, desperately.
Please, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Please.
With her previous conversation with Preston, she showed no sign of remorse whatsoever. Even when questioned if she felt bad, she replied with,
"No, not really. The work's important."
Now, faced with her own mortality, she suddenly grows a conscience. It almost seems like she knew it was wrong all along, but convinced herself otherwise. The prototype gives us yet another one of his cobbled together speeches. I really like these, they have such a creepy quality to them, particularly when he uses Jessica's own voice against her.
The other was my
Good friend, Preston.
Not only does this show that he's been listening to their conversations, but it also hints that the prototype enjoys using people's own voices against them. Something of a power play, and something that he used against Harley Sawyer too. Now this is where the prototype admits he'd already found Preston. He tells Jessica that she is the second person today to apologize to him. In my previous video, I theorized that Preston wasn't killed at the end of that video and was instead taken to the prototype since he helped 1006 start the Hour of Joy. Well, it turns out that that was correct, but the prototype points out that these two scientists were very different. He claims that Preston was always nice to him, whereas Jessica wasn't very nice at all. But the way the VHS ends is incredibly suspicious and already has many people debating. The prototype forms his hand into a claw, very similar to how he did for Catnap at the end of Chapter 3. This is implying that he killed Jessica for the role she played within Playtime Co. That's not surprising. Most of the staff were killed during the Hour of Joy. But the next scene shows the prototype placing a new toy down on this desk. This new toy is a jumbled mess of parts with a cat bee head. The toy is obviously confused, as 1006 claims that since Preston looked out for him, he can now look out for Preston. Forever. The reason why I think this ending is so suspicious is that arguably Preston ended up with a worse fate than Jessica. It appears that Jessica was instantly killed and Preston was rewarded by being turned into a toy. You can see that this experiment's eyes are darting around just like Thomas Clark after he was turned into Bron. Jessica claims that Thomas was confused and didn't know where he was. It seems likely that the same is now happening to this person. Now, if you ask me, it's debatable which is a kinder sentence, a quick death or a half-life within a jumbled toy body. So why would the prototype subject Preston to a worse fate than Jessica? Does the prototype actually believe that this process is a good thing? Or is he punishing Preston just like he punished Jessica? Now there is of course the possibility that this cat bee mashup is actually Jessica and not Preston. It's possible that Preston is the one holding the camera, watching what the prototype has done to her. We don't know where the prototype stabbed Jessica, and if she was about to head to surgery, then her human body being mortally wounded wouldn't really matter that much anyway. I think either scenario is incredibly tragic. Preston helped the prototype end the experiments only to become one himself, and not even a good one. I do still wonder if the prototype kept Preston around to help with his experiments. It definitely seems like 1006 hasn't mastered the craft yet and having a scientist to advise him would be a smart move. But this does make me wonder if this is tied to the breakthrough that 1006 is working towards. I have long theorized that Playtime Co. believed they could reverse the scientific process, at least one day. The scientist in Chapter 1 said one more breakthrough and he would be back. If the prototype is working towards that same goal, then perhaps him keeping Preston alive is actually his reward, a reward he one day hopes to fulfill. I think that one definitely deserves its own video though, since the consequences for that one are much larger than you might think. Now, one thing I do want to address is the Laith Pierre theory. I've seen some people speculate that Jessica said, "I'm sorry, Laith Pierre," in this moment, but to my ears it definitely sounds like, "Please, please, I'm so sorry, I'm sorry." Now, I actually made a theory years ago that Laith could have been 1006, but that was debunked in Chapter 3 since we found out that Laith was still around for Catnap's experiment, and we found out once again in Chapter 4. But while the prototype isn't Laith, we still don't have answers as to what exactly happened to those executives. I am absolutely convinced that they are either still alive in some fashion, or they still have a role to play in the overall story in some other way. Now, all of this ARG led up to one final conclusion. The mad lads in the Discord once again found clues to a hidden website. This one opens a site called End of the Rope, which shows a countdown and a look inside the labs. Now, there is a ton of information here. The countdown is likely ticking down to our final trailer. We still haven't had a gameplay trailer for Chapter 5 yet, so that is most likely what it's ticking down to. But the name of the website itself is a huge clue. End of the rope is a term which means when somebody is desperate. They have run out of options. This could be referencing a number of different characters. It could be referring to us. We ourselves are out of options, nowhere else to go now but inside the labs. It could also reference Poppy, but I think it is most likely referencing the prototype. As I said back in Chapter 3, the prototype gave us several warnings to leave. It was only after we repeatedly ignored those warnings that 1006 ordered Catnap to attack. If, as I have theorized, the prototype believes the work he is doing is good, then now that we have arrived in the labs, he is the one at the end of his rope. This will be his justification for attacking us. We are threatening the work that he's trying to complete. I have said dozens of times that I believe the prototype is trying to save everybody. Well, at least the orphans and experiments. If that is indeed the case, then I'm sure he won't hold back against us in Chapter 5. But there is still more information. The tab of the website displays the end. Now, it's not clear if that means Chapter 5 is the end of the series or if this is just the end of the ARG. Personally, I'm okay with either. As much as I would love more Poppy Playtime chapters, I want the devs to end it when they think is the right time. And if 5 is the right number, then so be it. I mean, who knows? The game series is set in 2005, meaning there is plenty of opportunities for spin-off series. Now, of course, let's address the elephant in the room. The big, red, hairy elephant. If you look closely, you can see this adorable little face staring at you. This is most likely that red character that has been teased during this ARG. Now, at first glance, you might think this is a Bron, especially because of the size. But let's be honest, Mob hates Bron fans the most. Judging by how tall this wall is, this character is absolutely huge. Which makes sense since Huggy and Kissy are extremely tall and this character is shown to be much bigger than them. They also appear to only have one ear and one eye. I'm not sure if they are damaged like Huggy or whether they were a failed experiment. But it now makes me wonder if this was the toy that attacked Kissy back in Chapter 3. It could still be Huggy, he does look more damaged than you would expect from his fall, but it could also be this new character that attacked her. One last interesting thing about this though is that this character only having one eye is a parallel to the prototype. We know that some of the toys have glowing eyes in this game and we can see that the prototype only has one. There is definitely a metaphor for one-eyed men here, but once again, I need another video to explain that one. So these are just my first thoughts on this latest VHS. I will say I think this ARG has been my favourite one so far. All of these videos have been absolute bangers, and they didn't drag this one out as long as they did for Chapter 4, which I appreciate. If we do indeed get a gameplay trailer, I will break that one down as well as doing a full playthrough on my second channel of the game and theories on this one after launch. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss those videos, Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.